Welcome to our very first XBI Inflight special, where you can join us and learn about all types of gaming topics from a gaming specialist in their own field. Now, for today, we have a very special topic and a very special guest. So, today we will be talking about a feature or an AI tool called Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. And with us, we have none other than Jazz. Now, Jazz has been a guest before on the XBI podcast, but she's our very first special guest here. Can you introduce yourself and tell us about a little bit about what is Microsoft Copilot?
My name is Jasmine Hogue. I am a senior technical specialist at Microsoft. I have been on the show before, but it's been some time, so I am back, and my role has changed since my last time on the show. And today, I just hit my, I slapped my mic off to the side. Anyway, that's okay if you leave that in. I'm way okay with that. I've been part of just my background. I've been part of Microsoft or the Xbox community for some time. I've been gaming for quite some time. I started out on PC. That's kind of my introduction because that's all we had. My dad got us a PC, so that's what we played on. We didn't have consoles until later on. And so today, my gaming history has informed me coming into the technology realm, and my growth in general in technologies actually stemmed from gaming. And a lot of my dad was also influential. My mom was actually a gamer, PC gamer before my dad. Actually, my dad wasn't a PC gamer. My mom was a PC gamer. She played with my uncle. So that's kind of how we got into it. So anyway, so today I'm going to talk about Microsoft Copilots. And there's a lot of news out there. I'm sure you kind of saw the news about what was going on with OpenAI and Sam Altman. He's working with Microsoft, but he's back. Is a lot. But you probably heard a lot about what Copilot this, Copilot that. What is Copilot? So the short end of it, Copilot is the term that Microsoft uses when it comes to AI, baked into its products. So, for example, you have the OpenAI aspect of Copilot, or I should say Azure OpenAI, which is actually based off of OpenAI's um, large language model, of course, with security baked within it because it's Microsoft. But at the end of the day, that OpenAI, the Azure OpenAI, that allows you to create your own large language model within our Azure services. And then there's the co-pilots that you hear. Now, if you may or may not follow the business world, there is a Microsoft Copilot which focuses on AI or generative AI baked within your Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and now Planner, and now there's going to be Project. Essentially, Copilot or your assistant is going to be available in all of your productivity suites. So, for example, I might be working on a Word document and I want to generate some kind of content. I'm going to pull up my Copilot and be like, hey, I need to create a business plan. Help me create a business plan. And it'll essentially make that. And I'll do some demonstrations for you on that later on today. You'll also see Copilot show up in our security posture. We call security posture, which essentially is all of our different suite or security products. You'll see Copilot show up there. You'll see it showing up in our what we call Fabric, or like our data visualization platform or data lake type platform. You'll see it show up there. So you're going to see these co-pilots show up so that they can help us do more. Now, there is a lot of fear in the air when it comes to AI. Oh, it's going to take jobs. And let's be real, there are going to be jobs that change based off of Copilot. I will say my job has changed immensely because of Copilot. I use it every single day. I don't I don't do as much internet searches as I used to because I just ask Copilot because it gives me the answer. in a relatively straightforward way. So I have changed the way that I work. I have changed the way I respond to my customers that I work with. I have changed the way that I respond to people internally. So my internal, external, I've changed that because of Copilot, because I have an AI assistant. So it's like having an intern that you could just say, "Hey, intern, I need you to do this research on this topic for me." An intern says, "Okay, I got it." And then the intern provides me the information in a really, really nice, understandable way. Now, like all products, trust but verify. So you always want to go back and look and see, okay, what did it give me again? I would not say Copilot give me a business case and didn't review the business case before I sent it off for a manager, or if I sit before I send it off to a sponsor or program sponsor to get funding for. I would review it first, because Copilot, once more, is made by humans, and humans are imperfect, and so there's bound to be some mistakes here and there. But it definitely saves one, a lot of time and a lot of money. I recently had Copilot do a business case for me. And then I was like, well, what's the budget that I would need to have this business case done? Like, it was like $10,000 just to get a business case. I was like, ooh, I'm not going to spend that kind of money for this business case. And so this is where the beauty comes of democratizing, what they say, democratizing technology. Because a lot of times for you to build business cases, sometimes you either, one, will have to spend a lot of time, two, have a lot of industry knowledge, three, have money to spend on it. And a lot of times you don't necessarily have all that. What you do have is maybe a good idea. But then you have to figure out, well, what's the feasibility of it? And you don't necessarily know what questions to ask. You don't know what you don't know. You do know you need a business case, but then what do you do from there? And so this is where your Copilot can come in and help you, even to fill in some gaps. Now, I will say it's always important to be knowledgeable about what you're doing before you get into it. At least have some form of knowledge so that you know what kind of questions to ask. For example, I couldn't say, I have Copilot, so now I'm going to be a developer. I don't even know what questions to ask in the first place to be a developer. I don't know what. I have no idea. So that isn't something that I could just say, I'm going to use Copilot to take that job. It's just not possible. It's not feasible, because you don't even know what question to ask. I don't even know what question to ask. However, because I specialize in process improvement and program management, I know what questions to ask. Because I specialize in business development, I know what questions to ask about developing business. So taking what your specialty is, you can essentially enhance that even more so. In the areas that you may not be as strong in, you can use Copilot to help you there.
Let me ask you this, because I did see something that they divide. I saw a presentation where they divided Copilot into two. I don't know if there's more groups than that, but basically there's the Copilot which you can use in your browser, which is, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, it's free,
Yep. Like
and
your,
then there.
yep.
Oh, and then there's the other one that I think is like the 365. Like,
Yes, Microsoft 365. So yes, so there's the Copilot that's in your browser, and that's connected to your the internet. So we call that like Copilot, and then there's Copilot Premium or Pro, and that's where you would pay. It will either come as part of your Microsoft 365 license if you have an E3 or E5 license. Within the browser, it kind of comes baked in there. And then there's the Copilot that comes as part of your product, like your Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and all those kind of productivity suite of products. But yeah, the free one, I use that all the time. I actually just, what we call, sometimes we call use cases. So a use case essentially is, how am I going to use this? How would someone use this product? So a use case that I presented, like in my world, because I actually work with healthcare organizations, health and life science organizations. A use case that I presented was for the Copilot that you'll find. It used to be Bing Chat, now they're changing it to Copilot. So the the changes that the way that I used it is, I was actually at the hospital for a family member that was sick, and the doctor comes into the off or into the room, and he's like rattling off a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I have no idea what this man is saying, and then he says his final things, and he's out, and I'm like, I have no idea what is being said here. Because even though I'm in the healthcare, I'm on the technology side. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a doctor. And so it was a little frustrating because I wasn't familiar with all the terms. And our and human body is really complicated. And so what I did based off of the little information, I started asking Copilot questions. I was like, what is this? Like he said he has this. What is it in human terms? Or explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And so in those, that's the beauty of the Copilot is that you can tell, you can say, hey, you could give it a persona. Hey, you're a teacher or you're a doctor. Help me understand this as if I'm a 5-year-old, or make it easier for me to understand what the ramifications are for this particular disease or for this medication. So I use it for research. Now, of course, with all things, you're still doing internet research, so that you have to be careful, but it presents it in a human like way so I can understand it. I don't have to go, like, let's say, for example, I go online, I just search up maybe a particular diagnosis. It'll give me a bunch of links that I have to then sift through to see, okay, well, which one do I go through? So I'm doing a lot of clicking, reading through information, trying to decide if it's relevant or not. Whereas with the Copilot, essentially gives it me in a nice executive summary of what it is I asked for, and then links to then go and do additional research. And then, if, of course, if I want to do additional research, I could do that too, following that. But it makes it easier for me to understand the content. And so that's your free version. If you want to say you're a Copilot online, like I give it personas. Like, hey, you're a designer, and we're trying to design something, biophilic design. That's a real design I just learned about, as a matter of fact, because I was talking to Copilot about something I want to do from a design perspective. So, and it came up with I was like, what is biophilic design? Gave me this whole information about biophilic design, where it came from, a whole bunch of information. I was like, okay, well, how do I get started? Boom. So now I've become aware of what it is. Now, how do I get started? And that's all in the free version.
Yeah, most people, like I would say, like if I would ask my mom about like AI and stuff, she would probably freak out because most people, the introduction they have gotten from AI has been like in movies like Skynet and all that,
Terminator.
etc. Terminator. So most people are scared, but based on everything you have mentioned, we have to treat this more as a tool that will help us in our work or in our job, in
Exactly.
our life.
It's just another tool. Is actually just the evolution of internet searching. You can look at it that way. But the difference is, before, the internet search is like only the internet and what's available on the internet. However, now with Copilot being baked into your Microsoft environment, now it can search your organization's content as well as the internet stuff. So now you're getting a better response for what's relevant to you specifically in the flow of work that you're actually in. And so, yeah, it's just a tool. Like, I say this all the time, like, technology is for humans. Humans are not for technology. So it needs to do what it does so it can help me do what I need to do. And so that's all that Copilot is. It's just that now Copilot has become intelligent, and I'll say intelligent with quotes because it's still a machine. It's not that
Yes.
smart. It's not smart. It's just parsing the information or pulling the information. So because it's not that smart, you still got to ask the right questions. But
Yeah.
if you ask a dumb question, because of the way it's designed, it won't say your question is dumb, but sometimes it can make you feel a little stupid because of the response. And what's interesting, so I'm reading this book. Well, I didn't finish it, but there's a book that I'm reading. All right, okay. So this book right here. Now, this is specifically about medicine. And medicine is really, like, it impacts all of us. Like, healthcare impacts all of us. We either know someone that is taking advantage of the healthcare system. We've had to take advantage of the healthcare system, or in the future we may have to take of it or use the healthcare system. When I say take advantage, I just mean use it. So we'll have to use these systems at some point in time, whether we like it or not. Sometimes I'm like, we've already used it. I mean, we were born probably in a hospital or something to that extent, or we had to get medicine or something to that extent. And so this book in particular, the AI revolution in medicine. So this was actually written by a gentleman named Peter Lee, along with a few others, who works here at Microsoft. And what they talk about is they kind of go into they look into the future, and they talk about how AI can be used for a nurse or a doctor. How would they use it as an assistant? And if you think about, other forms of technology, let's talk about our HoloLens. You have a HoloLens, or you have a virtual device, and now within your virtual or your augmented reality, in which, because doctors are healthcare actually leverages the augmented reality heavily. Healthcare, manufacturing, maybe not as much in gaming. I mean, of course, you have your like your Meta Quest and whatnot for gaming, but it's still a little niche in gaming. But in like manufacturing and healthcare, in other areas where the simulation is needed, then you're going to see these augmented reality devices or virtual reality devices for work. And so imagine you're sitting, you have this device on, and you're doing a surgery, and you have to ask questions while you're doing a surgery. So you could ask somebody who's on the other line, but they might not be available. So who do you got to ask? So that's where your Copilot comes in, your assistant who helps you. So one of the things we say often is that it's called a co-pilot, not autopilot. So you can't get the co-pilot to do your work. It's not.
Okay. Yeah.
Just don't want to. That's not going to happen. That's not going to work. But anyway, the essence of it is how can you use it in those kinds of situations. It's a really good book, and it really touches onto the art of what we call the art of the possible, of how you can really leverage this fully, and it's the art of the possible, but in some instances it's already here. It's not necessarily just the future.
Yeah. In the medical field, I feel like that's something that could be very, very impactful. I have went to many like hospitals where it's like it's packed and they don't have
Mhm.
enough doctors and stuff. So I feel like that could be very, very useful.
Yes,
Um,
and and you may notice that a lot of the technology major players within the technology field are investing heavily in their own form of medical or health um, assistant, or virtual assistant, however you want to call it, or co-pilot. And so, and that's because it is such a one. I can go on and on. The healthcare system has a lot of like issues within it. And so some of these can definitely be solved with technology. But because healthcare is also heavily regulated, and there's people's lives that are at stake, they can't afford to just say, we're going to start this new technology and just put it into our system and hopefully it'll work. But as we know, because sometimes technology doesn't do what it's supposed to do, but when it does, it's beautiful. But there's people's lives at stake. So there's a lot that's being
yeah.
put into that's happening so that it can be effective and it can be safe, because we don't want anyone to lose their life. And yeah, lives are important. And so it's just, they need to take their time there, and they are. And the things that I have seen in terms of what some organizations are doing with AI is amazing. It is simply amazing. Okay.
But how do you see like this affecting like something like school, like education?
It's
Like,
already it's already effect. So in some countries they've created personal tutors leveraging Copilot.
everything.
Like,
But will there be like how do you like will there be like is there certain rules maybe that kind of like
yeah,
monitor that because
I think so. This is purely opinion,
opinion.
purely Jasmine's opinion, not Microsoft's opinion. But I'm all for embrace the technology. It's not going anywhere. So, but what will end up happening is that there will have to be more um, forms of education and training that rely on active project in class work, not just here's a project and go do a report for me.
Yeah, I don't like that either. No.
No, no, that's I mean that's a thing of the past. If they want to use Copilot to go write their report, let them go write the report and call it a day. But there it is going to be a change, because what's going to happen is students are going to use it anyway. Even if you say no, you can't use it, they're going to do it anyway. Same
Yeah.
with, you before it was books, they had to go to a library to go do research, and then you have the internet. So there they go to do the research on the internet, but then there's plagiarism that comes along with that. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
So of course there's things that you have to do to counter that, but at the same time that also means there's a change in training and teaching, in skilling. I personally think there should be more gamification in schools. Like that is a way to teach students even more so. Testing has its place. Like there's different ways to assess whether or not someone's getting it. And but that's a deep, slippery, that's a lot. That's a
I
lot
feel
going
like
on, especially from an education perspective.
you see a lot of places when someone, let's say you graduate from X career and you
Hmm.
go find a job. Most jobs they want experience because they want someone that have actually had practice with the job. I feel
Yeah.
like that can actually kind of help because even though they're not getting like real, practice, but at least they have more of an idea if they're actually using it to like
Yeah.
to have more practical work. So
Oh, I agree 100%. I do. So we have a program that so within Microsoft, we have something called ERG, or Employee Resource Groups. And those employee resource groups are to help employees that fall into different communities. Actually, anybody can join any employee resource group, but we have one that's specifically we have one for those who are Hispanic, those who are Black, those who are women, those who are part of the Gleam community, families. You got a family, they got everything. Military, um, and which is, and then there's subgroups is a lot. So it's just a number of different communities across the board where people share resources. And let's say, for example, you don't identify as Hispanic, but you want to join the Hispanic group, you can't. Nobody's saying you can't. You're a woman, but you want to, or you're a man, but you want to join the women's group. You could do that too. There's nothing preventing you from joining these groups. And so, anyway, we have one in Florida called BAM Florida, which is essentially Blacks at Microsoft Florida. And we did a summer mentorship program where we partnered with a local technical college. And with this local technical college, we opened it up to just their students that were part of their cybersecurity program. And we gave them opportunity to be mentored by Microsoft employees for the summer, or for like, I think, 4 weeks, and then continue that relationship should they want to continue that kind of mentoring. They were given that option, with the goal of getting them real life training to see what is like in a fast paced environment, but also to do projects. They had a project team they had to work through, and they had to do a hackathon at the end where they had to present to a panel to see whether or not their project was like, do you want to keep going or not. So it was pretty awesome, with the goal of, even after that, if here's a voucher so you can get certified, get a Microsoft certification so that you can put it on your resume, with the goal being, you got some experience, you now have the opportunity to do a certification, put that on a resume so that when you leave here, then you are more attractive in the workspace. Because at the end of the day, why are you going to school? You're going to school for work, like, so that you can get a job. I mean, sometimes you just going to school because you just want to learn, but for the most part, if you go into a technical college, your goal is to get a job.
yeah.
So the goal was for us to help contribute to that. So this was the first year that we did it in Florida, and actually, it started originally in New York, and they just opened it up this year to different states. So the Carolinas, Florida, Dallas, all had their summer mentorship, and it's typically geared to high school students. Florida was special in that we partnered with a technical college, and so we had students that literally ranged from 18 to 60 some odd years of age. That with the goal of saying, this is the real workforce. Like, you're not going to go to work and everybody's in high school. That's that's not real. Like that, I mean, it might be. I don't know. There may be some places where you only hire high schoolers. I don't know, but this wasn't it. So the goal was to really give them that experience, and so having that experience, being able to say that you have this skill, is super important. I think there is not, and I know we're getting a little bit off on a tangent. I'm sorry, and we're supposed to be talking about
Oh
AI,
no, you're
but a
fine.
portion of that stems like is the aspect of mentoring. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. But then again, that's also how you can leverage your AI to do that. It's like, hey, I need a mentor for, let's say I want to get into game development. I need a game mentor. Or what do I do to get into game development? Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't know what I don't know. So,
Yeah,
what should I know? So, then
that's
that's when
right.
you start leveraging your Copilot to ask questions. With that, you have to go in with a mindset that you don't know everything. Like,
Yeah,
you go in humble, go in hungry, humble and hungry. And if you go in humble and hungry, then you'll be able to develop faster and you'll ask the question because you're trying to do more. And then you're like, okay, I don't know. Now I want to develop something. So what do I need to do to get started developing something? Do I even want to be a developer? Like maybe I don't want to be a developer. Maybe I want to be a project manager, or maybe I want to be a narrative director, or maybe, but I don't even know where to start. And you could start by just going online and binging or Google, whatever you do, internet search, whatever you do to find out what those roles are. But if you use your Copilot, it'll tell you in a nice, pleasant way, and it'll be very helpful with your job search. These are some of the jobs that are on here too.
That's actually a great example. You know why? Most kids in high school, you ask them what is gonna be their career choice, and most of them
Hmm.
they don't even know, and they don't even have an idea what they want, and
They don't.
sometimes like they might think they want something, and then once they try
Hmm.
it, they drop off, which is even worse.
Yeah.
So I feel
Let
like
me.
that can be great.
Can I really quickly? I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through it. So, the way that you can access the free chat, of course, you can sign up for Chat GPT. If you sign for Chat GPT, is okay. However you want to use it. Chat Bing Chat is actually based off of Chat GPT, so the same backend. So anyway, so go to Bing and you can either hit your chat button here, this little chat button. You can hit this little chat button, or if it's just in your browser, you can hit your chat button or your Copilot button here. You'll notice that it says work. So I have the work version, of course. So this is protected. It protects your organization's information when you're doing searches. And then there's the web version. It's still protected because it's enterprise version, but is now also looking throughout the internet. So it tells you web, it tells you work between two, or you just do it through here. So I'm going to close this out. I actually use this frequently, more frequently than going to the chat on like just going to Bing and then whatever, because it's just easy. I hit my button, my Copilot, and it's just there. So in this instance, I'm going to go to my chat. And so I'm going to ask it, let's say, for example, so we're talking about school. Actually, we're talking about gaming. And I don't know the first thing about how to get into the gaming world. I don't even know what kind of roles are out there. So I'm going to ask it, what kinds of jobs can I get in game development? I think not everybody's a developer, and it's okay. I think sometimes people think you have to be you do not have to be a developer. There's so much more out there. So in this instance, it starts kind of like running you through different types of roles that you can have. Something that you may have, let's say for example, you have an idea for a game. So in this instance, it gave me game developer, game designer. So maybe I don't want to be a programmer or a tester, but I do want to design different games. So okay, maybe I want to do some more research on game design. So one of the great things, notice that it kind of tells you here's a few, just a few examples of the mini jobs. So there's more than just that. So I can ask it, okay, I need to know more than what you've given me here. But then it tries to say good luck. It tries to put some empathy in there to sound really sweet. But then it also gives you some other relevant information about schools that are in the area that I can go to because I'm in Florida. Of course, it says Full Sail. But then, okay, I'm gonna continue in this instance. But then I say, well, the great thing about it is it remembers the context of the conversation. So if you just do a web search, it doesn't remember your context. You got to put it in a new search anyway. But in this instance, I can continue the conversation. Now, this one gives me some prompts, but I say I would tell it, give me the top 10 roles. Give me give me actually 10 more roles within game development. Oh, and I ask it a question. It'll know that I'm not asking a question. But then no says, sure, here are 10 more roles. So you can continue the conversation. This is much different than if you were just going to do a simple search, because it, like I said, remembers the context. Now we're getting more information. Now these seem a little more inserts. Okay, I have game writers, I have level designer, sound designer, animator, UX, UI design, all those kinds of things. So I'm like, okay, now, sometimes we complain about the UX, or we complain about the menu system in the games, like this menu is trash. So maybe I want to do some UX UI design. This in particular, UX UI design or UI UX design, you can use this not just in gaming. It spans multiple different industries. And that might be something you might ask. You might say, okay, can I use the skills in game in these in these game development jobs also in other industries? Which I think is key. Like, you want something that is cross industry. So you don't want to just say, oh, I'm gonna go to school for game development. You go for maybe something that's really specific to game development, and then you decide, well, maybe I don't want to do game development. I want to go somewhere else. And then you're kind of stuck because you spend all this time and money doing one thing, and then you can't transfer it somewhere else. So then it says, yes, many of the skills used in development are transferable. Then it talks about the example: programming, design, project management skills. All can be used in different industries. So then you may say, okay, so maybe I want to look at being a project manager for a game. So look at this: game development project manager. Now this is interesting. Notice this is a volunteer opportunity. Now I know we're going a little bit into like career, whatever, careers and game development, but sometimes you might want to look for that, because if you're new to this space, you need to get experience. I think you asked that earlier. So volunteering to help is helpful. Doing hackathons is helpful. So any area that will help you um, work on your skills in a safe space or safe environment is highly recommended. I do volunteer activity all the time, especially if there's things I want to do later on, just so I can get experience. I do it internally at Microsoft, and it's been helpful for me in my career. That's all I can, like I say. But as you can
Yeah.
see, it remembers the context of the conversation. And then you can go on and have further conversations. Notice that it tells you, let me know you have any questions. Sometimes it'll ask you follow-up questions. If it doesn't understand what you're saying, it'll ask you, well, can you give me a little more detail on that particular ask, just like a person? So ask the question, treat it like a person. It's not a person. It's not. But you can have a conversation with it almost as if they were a person. Sometimes it forgets. Sometimes it gets a little confused. I had a chat with it not too long ago where it was telling me somebody was 50 something years old, but yeah, he was born in 19 was it 1990 something. I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense. And if this thing literally had an argument with me about saying that I was wrong, I need to check my math, and I was like, it was so wild, but absolutely hilarious. And so, but that's one of the drawbacks. That's why you gotta verify, because
Yeah.
sometimes it speaks with such authority, but it's authoritatively wrong. So then you gotta get with it sometimes and be like, that's not right. Can you show me how you did you? I was like, show me where you got that math from. How you did your math? And he's like, and it literally said, well, if you do this and you do that. I said, but didn't you say earlier that it did that? He was like, oh, and I say there is no gender here, sorry, but it was like, oh, I made a mistake.
Oh wow, that's
Well, at
that's
least
pretty
you
cool.
acknowledged it. I was like, good, because you were wrong. He was like, I said I made a mistake. I was like, oh, okay, okay. I was like, it's absolutely hilarious to me. Sometimes, like the response, because it's almost human, is not human, but sometimes it has that little human touch. And that goes to one thing that I think is interesting and why is growth, like why people gravitate to AI in this way. And yes, there is fear, but a lot more people are going to be leveraging it. You leverage AI anyway, regardless of whether you're using this is just generative AI. But you've been using AI. If you play games, you've been using AI for a while. AI is nothing new. And so, but one of the things that generative AI is able to simulate is empathy. And so I do this whole conversation about empathy internally and how it leads to customer. I've done a session on and how it leads to customer success. But empathy, and I did it with this other woman. She's in a Scandinavian country. She's awesome, by the way. But she like as we were doing the presentation, she brought out a really awesome point. She said empathy is not necessarily a feeling; it is a skill. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's essentially a skill that if you exercise it enough, it becomes part of your everyday who you are. So it can essentially become you in that sense. But empathy is really the ability to put yourself in another person's position. You can feel, you understand why they feel the way that they feel. And so for generative AI, and this is why people are excited and also fearful, is that it's able to simulate empathy, which is a very human quality. And so for a machine to be able to simulate that, it starts coming to question like you as a human. And then there's also that fear because some humans really struggle with empathy. They just don't, they can't put themselves in someone's situation and they will automatically discount a person. Let me give you an example. So not too long ago, there was, and by long ago I mean like last week, there was a I'm just going to say a specific hashtag, a specific topic that was trending,
Oh yeah.
and there were a number of people that came out and said this does not exist. There's others that like this definitely exists and this is the proof. Now you can tell a person lacks empathy when they say, like with full force, it doesn't exist, that's just you. So you're not able to put yourself in a person's, you're automatically discounting a person's experience, a person's feelings, because you personally don't see it. And what
Yes.
happens is people confuse empathy with sympathy. They're two different things. Sympathy means you can sympathize with someone. You know what it feels like because you've been in that situation. So you can sympathize with a person. Empathy is something where you have never been in that situation, but you can still understand where that person is coming through. And sometimes people forget that completely. It's the same thing when sometimes people discount a person's experience when it comes to racism or when it comes to gender, some form of discrimination, whatever you want to call, what is gender versus race or age. You know, sometimes people say, you say, well, I was really being discriminated against. And then somebody said, you weren't discriminated against. But how do you know? Like
Yeah.
you weren't in that person's situation. You can't tell another person how they should feel.
It even happens like, for example, when a game come out, and for example, I play it and I experience bug, and someone tells me, "Oh, there's no bugs. I didn't experience any bug." But
Exactly.
yeah, so
Exactly that. There's such a difference between the two. And empathy is hard. Sympathy is easy because you've been through it, you know. Empathy is hard because it really requires you to not think about your own self. You have to take yourself out the equation. You really have to put yourself in another person's shoes. And so for technology to be able to simulate that is a major breakthrough. But to me, that also tells you that is something that people can learn. That's It's not a feeling. If a machine can learn how to be empathetic, humans definitely can learn to be empathetic. But it's essentially a muscle that humans have to exercise, and the machine can do it much faster because the machine doesn't have ego. Even though it
yeah.
may pretend like it may simulate ego, it has no ego. It doesn't.
Uh, yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned this because for a lot of people, that are going to like experience this for like the first time, this could be something that can actually like scare them.
Mm-hmm. Like you don't. It's. I can't believe it just responded in that way. But it's just the machine. Is this is what goes into it. And to be honest, for it to respond this way, you have to think it's humans on the other end that put the information in. And that's also why there's a lot of talk about bias within AI and how it communicates information, because who's putting the information in, where is it getting the information from? It's already coming from potentially biased sources. So there's a lot of um discussion right now, especially if you look at what's happening in government wise, they're about safety and about responsible AI. How do you make sure that is responsible? Microsoft has responsible AI principles that they adhere to. And then when we talk to our customers, we talk to them also from, if you're going to create your own large language models, if you're going to create your own essentially your own co-pilots, these are the things that you need to think about to make sure that it is safe for those in your organization. You need to set rules and boundaries in place for your organization so that everybody can engage with this in a safe way. But you can look at it this way. AI is like that. It can be a rowdy and coworker. And that rowdy coworker, sometimes you got to train them. You got to let them know the rules, or let her know the rules. Because if you don't let her know the rules, she going to go off.
Yep.
And then she going to get fired. And we don't want her to get fired because we need her. So in this instance, you have to train it in order so that it moves within the boundaries. But just because there's boundaries doesn't mean that there aren't so many different possibilities for it. So yeah.
Let me ask you this. This you might not know the answer, or you might not be able to tell me this, but is my like what would be the parameters Microsoft is trying to use when, let's say, AI, when you ask it a question for it to look for the answer? Does it first look into like maybe like books that are like resources that are kind of like well established, or is it something it does on its like it's programmed to do on its own? Like how does that work? Do you have
So
any?
so it depends on the context of the question. So if let's say you're using your Microsoft 365 Copilot, it will look first within your organization's data. First it will we call it ground the prompt. So when you ground a prompt, you're essentially telling it, okay, these are the parameters that you can work within, and then you need to go to different places to get it. Because enterprise data is so, like we have to protect that. There's a level of security that we have to have. We can't just like, we're going to send this search or send this question out to the internet. No, you can't do that because that's confidential information within it. So when you then have what it will do is it will remove information that's specific to an organization before it sends it to the large language model for processing. And that's due to security, that's due to privacy. It can't train the large language models. Like all of that information is protected before it sends out. But it also looks within the organization so that it can give a response that's appropriate. Now, within the organization, somebody, if it's a question asked, it will only pull information that that particular person has access to. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to ask Copilot what Satya's, how much money does he make or whatever to that extent. It's not going to give me that information because I don't have access to that. Like it's they're not. It's not going to give that information. So it's super important that even within organization, there's controls that are in place to make sure that your like data is being protected. Uh, Within the organization. So then when it goes, if it even goes out, because organizations can lock that down. They might not even allow their co-pilot to go look for information out externally. Like that's the kind of security that is being baked into this product. So um, when you say books, it's really like what's in a large language model, what's in the internet, what's in your organization. It really just depends on the type of question that gets asked.
Okay, yeah,
Hopefully that was
that's
beneficial. And then organizations have the opportunity to create content. Um, they can create their own parameters essentially to create their own type of large language models if they want based off their own organization's content, leveraging the OpenAI large language model as well as to help it with it.
Okay, now we talked a little bit about gaming,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to know, do you feel there's a way that Copilot could be maybe added into, let's say, an Xbox, and then it could be beneficial to us gamers, but also like maybe it could get integrated and developers could start using it and we can see advancement on that end?
So Copilot, so we have something called GitHub Copilot, um, which essentially developers were using Copilot almost that they were using it before I was using it for Microsoft 365. So it's already being used. It's helping developers um, code better if you want to look at it that way. Checks it, testing. Um, it is definitely already in use and being used. Like gaming, any type of development is kind of like already there. So it's not like if it's going to happen, it's already
It's
happening.
already happening.
Already happening.
Okay. And how do you think like it could be implemented for us? Like, let's say me as an Xbox user,
Hmm.
I, I turn on my console. Maybe Copilot could help me. I don't know, like find a
Hmm.
specific type of game I want to play, or maybe like,
Yeah, I think
um,
that would be awesome. I think I don't know what Xbox is going to do because I'm not on that team. I don't have access
true,
to that.
true.
I don't have access to that. But when I think about what Copilot could do, there's so much more than, let's say, specifically, helping you find a game. Why don't you change your interaction with the game based off of what you tell Copilot? Like, for me, RPGs are a prime
Yeah,
place for this kind of copilot for generative AI. And we've already seen examples of that already, where people have changed, like they've leveraged the voice of a particular character or NPC, but now you can start asking that NPC question without the developer, without the writers actually writing the question and having to develop for that specifically. Now you can engage with it and you can leverage your copilot to do it, because remember, you can give your copilot a persona. So if you give it a persona like, hey, you're who, like, what game I'm trying to think of.
here I will
Hey,
give
I'm
you an.
Sonic. Let's say Sonic.
Okay, Sonic.
Sonic. So, hey, you're Sonic. So, respond in a way that Sonic would to a question from Amy, or something like that. Or you're Mario, or you're Master Chief, or you're a Squirtle that somehow can now speak. Like,
I feel a great way it could be used. And I played this game. I didn't play it when it released. I actually
mhm,
played it this generation. It's
mhm,
called Binary Domain from Sega,
mm. Oh,
and
okay.
it's kind of like a Gears, but
Mm,
it has a feature where you have the your companion's NPC. You can
mhm,
actually talk to them in commands, and they
mm,
would respond back to you. But it's limited, and if you use your imagination for a while, like there's some of the responses you're like, wow, like imagine if you can have a full conversation with it. Like it will really make you feel like you're you know in there, like with
mhm.
playing like co-op or whatever.
So this is what we can do. I'm going to share my screen once more.
Okay.
Okay. So here's an example of how you can use your Copilot. Now, we were in Japan, and when we were in Japan, we were trying to create an itinerary for a day, and so we wanted to hit a couple of different places. And so I kind of like went to my Bing chat or my Copilot, and I asked it. So I'm actually going to copy the prompt that I put in here. This one I said Gundam statue Yokohama, but I'm actually going to change this to um, Harajuku. And then I also want to do, I think that's good. So I said, give me an itinerary for a trip to Japan where you visit Akihabara. This is the anime mecca, by the way, Akihabara for those who are anime. And then Harajuku, and then a kabuki show and a dinner. So I asked it for timelines, public transportation schedules, and I want it in a table. It's very specific. So I'm going to ask the Copilot to do that, and then it will give me my itinerary. I love the fact that it gives me in a table. So then essentially breakfast at the hotel, visit Akihabara, and then where should I take the JR line, Yamanote? We took this line all the time, and I will tell you the transportation can be a little confusing sometimes here and there. Return to hotel. Can you add a trip to the closest onsen, or onsen or sento, near the show? I'll put that in there. There we go.
Oh, so every do it again with the
No,
wow.
here's so it looks like it's just telling you what's the
Oh,
closest one.
okay,
I should
okay.
ask it to give me the whole trip again and make sure I add it. So right now it's just giving me the here's the onsen. Let me see. Can you add the Sakura onsen to the initial itinerary? Sure. Here's your updated itinerary. That includes a visit to the Sakura onsen. How I love that it remembers
Wow.
what it was. Cool, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So as long as you have this conversation, it remembers
Mm,
everything from this conversation, right?
yep.
If you
Remember.
close it and start a new one, it won't remember that old conversation.
Yep. Now, yes. I want to say there are ways to pull up previous conversations. Relatively new. Give me a minute. It's still going. It could be in here. I think in internal ones you can it'll remember previous conversations. I'm searching the web, but I want to say I saw recently that was recently added. Go back to the chat. Oh, I just uh, I just closed it out. Of course. Okay. Well, actually, didn't close it out completely. So awesome. And then this is actually fairly new too. I keep on. Edit in Excel. Like I wasn't able to do that before. So that's new. That's one of the things I would say that's one of the things I love about my job. Like there's always something new that's popping up. Like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize I could do that. Oh, saying X words. Okay, maybe it's a new thing. A new item. A new feature that they're still working. Because I had never seen this before. But another thing that's really cool within your chat. So let's say there's a lot of content, there's a lot of information out there, but this is something that you can do that's pretty awesome. I'm going to go to Microsoft DNI. So Microsoft, I can put it out. I'm going to do the topic. What was Microsoft's last DEI um, report published?
uh, um, oh, I think last went with 2A.
Say again?
Oh, I was saying last went with an
Yeah, that's
extra.
fine. It knows. Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
that's the other thing. It'll know what I'm saying, so it understands the context. So, the latest report. I can go to the report. Boop, boop, boop. Wait a minute. What did I click on? Oh man, this is me moving too fast. Again. I think I clicked on something too fast. Man. Well, actually, I can do it from here. So what I really wanted to show is I can show like if you have your Copilot open on the side, you can ask it to summarize a web page. So web page. Oh, and I asked a question. It's not really a question. It is uh, a statement. But notice here's a summary of this web page, which is awesome. So let's say you have a bunch of content on a page, and you're like, "What's going on this page?" It's I need a like it's too much, too long, didn't read. Then you just ask it to summarize it for you, and then you can ask questions. So in this instance, like, what is the pricing for Dynamics 365? It'll give me the answer because it's all part of the page. Where to do the search for it. And then it gives me a link to where I need to go.
That's
Or
awesome.
if let's say we were gonna go to a gaming site, like let's do Iron Lords. 'Cause I do like the Iron Lords. The Iron Lords of gaming. Okay. And let's ask them to. Don't they? I think they have like reviews. Oh, what we got going on? Okay, we close that. Reviews. Let's do persona. And you can cut out the other stuff if you want, but let's go to a review. And then maybe I want to get a summary of this page. Summary of this page. It's okay if I don't correct it. It knows what I'm talking about. And why it does this thing. Persona tag. This page review, turn-based strategy, story characters, praise the game. The game takes blah 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 strategy. The review also complements the game strategy. So let's say I want to get like side notes or send something off, or I want to create a blog post or something about it, and just have it do a summary for me and then post it. Or let's say I want to compose a blog post. So this is where your beauty of your Copilot comes in. I want to compose something, so maybe I want to write a email, a paragraph, bullets, a LinkedIn post. I mean, LinkedIn is the same as do X post or create a report. Length, I can generate that. And then what's the tone? Oh, I like this. I can do, oh, I can add, oh, this is new. I like it. There's always, it's always something new. Give me a review about the most recent update to Starfield. With the pros and cons. Make it medium length. It's just going to be a paragraph. And again, it's tone. This might be why sometimes people are worried about their jobs and like reporting going away because just do this. But
Yeah.
you
But
can't get rid of the human touch. But yeah, it just created a review. Not
yeah,
perfect. Some issues. Overthink. It's worth it. Has a lot of new content, but also some drama that needs to be addressed.
I was gonna say, even if you can do this, however, a person still has to check it, make sure it's well written, and it does the job that it's supposed to do, or it says what it's supposed to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, so those are some of the things that you can do, and of course, I think everybody's familiar with your like image generator. So you can essentially write within your chat, create images. We're all very familiar with it. We create it all the time. My little avatar, she's based off of the image generator, but now image created from designer. So they're changing the name of a little bit. But right from within here, you just put in your prompts, and then you go. One of the things that they have coming within the designer side of things is the ability to share your prompts. So let me show. So I'm gonna go to designer. I love this feature. So Microsoft Designer same backend as your Bing Create, but go to generate. Let's say you create a prompt. So in this instance, I created this prompt and I want to share it. But I can share it as a template. So essentially, I can change different aspects of my prompt that people could then change. So let's say, for example, instead of her having a teal pencil skirt, I'm going to make this a custom field. And then instead of her having strawberries, I make that one a custom field. And then I wanted Microsoft logo there. Maybe instead of blonde, that's good enough. So next, so then I copy link. So then I can share this prompt to somebody. So then other people can put in the prompt and then just change it based off of what they would like. I mean, they can change the whole aspect of the prompt,
Yeah.
but if you just want them to change a specific parts, you can do that. So notice it has same thing wearing a what? I want to wear some black leather pants. Black leather pants. It's okay if it's not. Well, I guess I should be better. And then instead of strawberry, I want it to be lightning bolts. Bolts. And then I'm gonna generate it. Um, so you can't submit it if you send a prompt. They won't be able to submit the prompt until they actually fill out the prompt areas. But this is designer image creator. Oh, I like these pans and these lightning bolts. Just very cute. And I think did I change your hair? I must have. But anyway, so that's some of the things that you can do with the image creator. So this is a little different from the Bing one. I mean, it's the same backend. There's just a little more that you can now do within the designer. And they just released this. This is going to be coming to organizations in the future. Like, actually, no, this month it went general availability for it to go to different organizations as part of their Microsoft 365 account. The beauty of gaming is that it is interactive. So Copilot would really would shine if it enhances the gameplay of a gamer. So for
Yes.
example, if I think of Halo Infinite, you actually have a little Copilot. You have your little, I think, your AI companion with you. Can you imagine
Oh.
if they connected your Bing to your little Copilot? Like before, we always have a system. When we play games, we have our man in the, just called the man in the chair or whatever. We have somebody like guiding us along the way. So you would connect your Copilot to your backend. Of course, you have to be always online. Sorry for those who don't want games that's always online. You're gonna have to always be online. It's just not going to work if you're not online. That's the reality of it. But
Yeah.
connecting your Copilot to your whoever is guiding you through the game. So then think about, okay, so now
I like the sound of it.
my juices are flowing. So I'm playing the game and I'm stuck, and so I'm like, I pull up my Copilot. Hey, assistant, wherever the keyword is, Navi. Hey, Navi, how do I get through this? I need a run through. So now I'm tapping into the internet, you could say, to get a walkthrough while I'm in the game to
Yeah.
get what I need
You,
instead of
you
having to
know
pull
what?
up my phone or do something like that.
You know what's the beauty of that too? That is if you connect, AI to it, you can ask the question you want to, and that way also, because like there's players like for example myself, I try to avoid like getting spoiled and also like
Mm-hmm.
looking in videos and finding out how to do things,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't mind like small little tips. Like just give
Mm-hmm.
me a tip. Don't tell me how to do it.
Give
Just
me a hint.
give me a hand exactly.
So maybe that's part of it. Maybe instead of a developer developing hints into the game, they let the co-pilot give the hints.
Yeah.
Give
And
me a
that
hint
way,
where I'm at in this game.
yeah, that way you kind of interact. Like you gave a great example with Halo. Like imagine when you're playing the single player, Cortana is your AI
Mm-hmm.
and she can just respond to you like it would like it should do like in the story, which
Yeah.
that would be amazing.
Yeah. So those are like enhancing gameplay enhancing the experience is where your Copilot, that's where it shines from a gaming perspective. And so I recommended to someone not too long ago a book called Actionable Gamification. It's by Yu Kai Cho, and he what he does is really interesting. He breaks down different human motivations based off of game mechanics. It's super interesting, and I liked it because one is a little bit of psychology involved, but it essentially talks about how we are motivated as humans, but through the lens of someone who plays games. So if we are like goal oriented or self motivated in some sort, how do you explain it to someone that plays a game? Maybe like you need something greater than self. Like, so if I'm playing, like say Zelda, and I need to save the world, where a world that's now being thrown into darkness, but I need to get rid of the darkness. Like, it's something greater than self. Or if you play Candy Crush and you need to collect points, or you need to organize things, it breaks those down, those kinds of things that motivate you to keep playing. Because essentially, and I love this, essentially games, they're work that we don't have to do. It's just another form of work. And so that's why when we're playing games and it's not fun, it's because now it's just work. And
Yeah.
like, am I getting paid for this work? So do I want to keep playing this game that I'm just working? I'm not playing. And then it's interesting because then it starts talking. Now I'm going a little. Please stop me if you're like, Jasmine, you're doing too much.
No,
But
you're
then
good.
it also talks about gaming and like what is fun, like what is fun. It like how do you really describe? You're saying I'm having fun, or you say, okay, well, I'm enjoying myself, I'm having fun, but what is it really? Fun is essentially a state of being, is a state that you kind of essentially go into, where you're enjoying yourself. It's firing different aspects of your brain and enjoy. It's hitting on a lot of different. Now you're having fun, but it's work that you have some. And so even more basic is like one fundamental human need that we have besides spirituality. Spirituality is a fundamental need that we have as humans, whether or not you're religious or not. Like, you still have to have some kind of belief system, whether you believe in evolution or something. Like, you still have to believe, so you have to have some kind of belief system. So that's that. But one thing that's fundamental to humans is the need to enjoy the work that we do. And so if we don't enjoy our work, then we're miserable, and we'll find a way to enjoy some form of work. And so sometimes they say, oh, gamers, all they do, they play games all day and they're lazy, but that's still work. It's a form of enjoyable work that they're engaging in. Now, I'm not making an excuse for anybody that just plays games and doesn't like, well, I mean, unless you play games and it gets you paid. Okay,
Yeah. That's
that's
different.
you know and then if you just want to play games and not work, that's you too. I mean, if you have a system that allows you to support that, okay. That's not me here and there may be a level of respect that I may or may not have for you. But at the end of the day, it's an aspect of who we are as humans. And so when we are able to leverage AI that can tap into the those forms of human motivation that encourages us, one, to keep on playing, for us to get into a state of enjoyment, or even for us to learn. So that's like, I'm really big on, I like gamification because there's like other applications of gaming elements in the world, like from teaching to learning to motivating people to do something. Program management is my job, and or I would say that's my job. You say, what's your career? I was like, program manager. But people ask me, well, what does that even mean? What does a project manager mean? I was like, well, essentially I got to get people to do something I want to do. like I got to motivate them to work and do this project. Sometimes I have authority, sometimes I don't, but I have to motivate them still to move along the timeline to get the work done. How do you do
Yeah.
that? So, and gamification like that, like aspects of gamification help tap into those different aspects of human psyche to help, like, just us get stuff done and want to get stuff done. So it's really interesting.
It's very interesting, like the potential of what Copilot could be like,
Hmm.
especially for me in this case, inside like the video game, like how how we can interact
Hmm.
once it's implemented into like video games. Jazz, thank you so much for all the information you have provided to us today. I have learned a lot. I'm sure that once I release this video, a lot of our subscribers will learn a lot about this, and hopefully they can implement this tool in their everyday life, make their life more more convenient for them, and maybe even they can help it can help them either find a job at their current job or in their everyday life with whatever they need. This is a very effective tool. We saw in the demo how it worked. So before we let you go, can you tell us where we can find you and how can someone learn more about uh, the Microsoft Copilot tool?
You can connect with me at SBG Shoe. And if you have questions about Copilot, you can connect with me. Connect with me on Twitter. Connect with me on Twitter at SBG Shoe. And it actually stands for Small Business Technology. Jishu is technology in Chinese. Learn Chinese. And if you're interested in a Copilot demo, then you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So just DM me and can get something situated on LinkedIn. But I do those kinds of things. You got to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just putting that out there.
All right, thank you so much, and see you guys soon on the next XBI In Flight special. Goodbye.